All right. Thanks all for coming by to learn more about all of the improvements we've made in room booking in Outlook. You know, room booking has been one of those areas in Outlook that I'd say has been severely overlooked probably for the past 10 to 15 years. I think we shipped something way back in Exchange 2003, and it hasn't changed that much. But what we realized in talking to customers is that there is a big need for us to make this better. So I don't know if you're familiar with this experience. You know, you go to book a room and you're sitting there and pick your room list and you have to wait for all these rooms to load. And so we kind of did a listening tour. We talked to many, many customers over the past 6 months. And overwhelmingly, it was room booking is just way too slow. And not only is it slow, it's also, it's like it's always just waiting to catch up to me. I know what I want to do, I'm trying to do it, and it's not fast enough for me. The other thing is that the things that people were trying to do, like adding multiple rooms or trying to search for a room, just wasn't possible. The other things as well is that room booking was designed in a world when we had Outlook Desktop or Outlook for Windows. And so we have a great Outlook mobile story now. We have Outlook on Mac. There just wasn't a consistent story on how to even book a room across all these Outlook experiences. And lastly, so being able to find something through a hierarchical experience is so old. In the world that we live in today, everyone's expectation is, I should be able to just search for a room. And so when we looked at all of the feedback and where we're at and the technology that we have available, what we realized is we need to make Outlook more location aware. And so that is what we're doing. There's a whole new sort of initiative that we are working on called Outlook Places. And this is to bring Outlook into the modern world of being location aware, being location intelligent, and being able to leverage all of the great technology that we have in the Microsoft Graph, as well as with AI and machine learning, to build a more modern experience. And so some of the core tenets that we are sort of designing this around is it has to be simple and fast. So the days of waiting, that just has to be built into it. And I don't know if many of you went to Julia's session this morning in calendaring, and you saw all of the investments that we're making to improve FreeBusy and the FreeBusy speed, because that is what was actually slowing down our ability to make the room booking experience faster. As well as being built on top of the Office Graph, what that allows us to do now is we can now enrich and make the understanding of locations much better in Outlook. So today you have a mailbox and you have a room list. By being built into the Microsoft Graph, we can add much more metadata and understanding about a user to then make the experience much more simpler. Then lastly, we wanted to make it simple. So we could build all this functionality, and we could give you an experience that has all these pickers, but we want to keep it as simple as possible. And by leveraging the graph and AI, we're able to do that. And so you'll see some of the new advanced filtering capabilities that we have as well. And so what this enables are 4 key user experiences that we're trying to light up. So the first one you may have seen in some previous sessions is around location suggestions. We essentially want to let the experience be smart enough to actually predict what is the room the user actually needs in the context that they're trying to book the meeting in. But we know that we're not going to get it right out of the bat. Like, it's going to take a while to learn. So there's a browse places experience that allows the user to find the place that they want and make sure that they are in control of what they want to see. Location cards is an experience that we have now. It's very similar like to the concept that we have of people cards. Location cards now allow us to provide more information about a location so that when you choose a room or even a public location, you have more confidence that this is the right place. As well as we can bring extra information to you as we invest more and more into the graph. And then lastly, this is what's going to help power a lot of the experiences where you see Outlook Mobile has shipped time to leave notifications. And in delivering on that promise to help you arrive on time, by enriching the locations with addresses automatically, more of these time to leave notifications can pop up without the user having to type in everything themselves. So room suggestions, I'll just go over this really briefly because I'll just show you how this works. But it's been released on web. It's actually already been released on iOS in Outlook Mobile. It's coming in Windows Desktop. We'll be bringing it to Mac as well and Android. But this experience, again, is an intelligent suggestion experience that's optimized to look at the various contexts that we can understand to try to predict this is the room that the user probably wants. And we're actually measuring ourselves in trying to, without them having to type anything, can we 50% of the time predict, like, this is actually one of the rooms that they'll actually pick? And then within typing 3 characters, we want to be 80% accurate that this is the room that they'll actually choose. In the browse room experience, so if our suggestions are not good enough, they'll fall through to a browse experience, which allows you to now do both search and filtering. So you can search by its name, by the city. We do substring match as well. We can also filter by availability, so you can filter down the list and just show me the rooms that I can actually book. Being able to filter by room list is still there because that's sort of a muscle that people still are familiar with, as well as adding capacity and additional capabilities. Like, there are a lot of capabilities that will be designed around equipment, but we've been hearing a lot of other requirements, like ADA requirements, or what other capabilities does a room actually have. So this is sort of what the browse room experience sort of looks like. I'll show you more of that. And then we have location cards. So location cards will show you rich information about the conference room, its address, if there's a phone number, so that's if you quickly need to dial into the conference room, you can do that as well. You get a quick glance at where its capabilities, so as you're choosing through there, you can quickly see what's available there. And then we are integrating with Bing and Bing Maps to get you directions or navigational information to that place. We're also building location cards for all the other places that Outlook Places will support. So Outlook Places not only allows you to have great understanding about your company places, we're also integrated so that you can have a good understanding about public places as well as your own personal places. So you can gain an understanding of what your commute might be from home to work or work back to home, or if there's other places you go in common. Being able to manage where you need to be is a key thing in understanding how you can manage your time better. So it's one thing to see it, it's another thing to actually test drive it. So let's just try to see if we can get this thing to work. Now, I'm going to demo this live from my own mailbox because that's the only way to really see the true value of the AI and the machine learning. So we're going to see how that goes. So this is my calendar. So if I pick a time here to book a meeting, there we go. This is our new Outlook web experience that you may have heard that we've been revamping, and it's built to be a much faster, more modern experience. And so typically if I was to go and schedule a meeting, so I'll add Paul, I'll add Sangya, let's go ahead and add Julia. I'll add, not that one, not Julian. Julia. And I'll add Cindy. And so you'll notice when I click into the room suggestions, these suggestions appear almost immediately. Now, if you're familiar with how FreeBusy works, like, this is a tremendous feat because to go and actually connect to all of these mailboxes and retrieve the FreeBusy is impossible to get this fast. But you can see here the suggestion, just to give you more context, the suggestion of the room it's giving you is this room in 3231, which is, we call it our fishbowl room. It's the room that I use the most. And so that's why it's always at the top. It's like the room that is close to where my core office is, and it's the room that I use the most. But if I remove, I'm just going to remove Cindy and Julia because it says that they're oof, and I go back to these suggestions, you'll notice that they've changed. And so now it's suggesting me room 3215. The reason why it's doing that, just in understanding my behaviors, is that usually when I'm in a meeting with Paul and Sangya, we're generally in some sort of executive review or LT meeting, and that generally happens in this bigger room on the first floor. And so it's anticipating that if I'm having a meeting with Paul and Sangya, I'm probably going to invite more people, and we're probably going to meet in that room. I'll just show you as well with another interesting thing. So we are very contextually aware. So there's another person I meet with a lot. His name is Gunjan. He's on the Cortana team. And so when I go, if I'm going to schedule a meeting with him, you'll notice that the suggestion changed there. Now it's suggesting City Center. So our Cortana team is actually based out of City Center. And generally when I'm meeting with Gunjan, we're meeting at City Center. So it's automatically just understanding and trying to predict, based on who I'm meeting with, what is the place that I want to see. And again, did you notice how fast these suggestions are coming up, finding the most available room? Now, some of the other signals that we look at are the time of when the meeting is. So I'll just show you something interesting. So if I picked 5 p.m. today, and this is called our zero query experience. So I'm not going to type in anything, and there's no attendees. You notice that it's actually suggesting the airport for me. So it's actually suggesting a public place. Because last week around this time is when I flew out here, and it's anticipating that I'm going to be at the airport again. So again, we're trying to predict. We're not perfect because I'm still in Orlando, so I'm not going to be at the SeaTac airport anytime today. But you can see how we're trying to incorporate and add your sort of behaviors into the core signals. Now I'll show you another interesting thing. So if I change the date, let's just say I'm going to go to next Thursday. And what you'll notice there on my calendar is this is actually the day that I do go to City Center and I do meet with Gunjan and the Cortana team. Is if I clicked here, again, not adding anything, not typing other than just the time, and I click on the suggestions, you notice again, it's going back and suggesting me City Center. Because based on my behaviors, generally I like to arrive at City Center about an hour before the meeting. I generally like to go and try to find a room. But you'll notice that it's suggesting the same room that I'm going to meet with him later that day. And so again, we're trying to be a little bit more smart in how we're trying to figure out what is the best room without you having to go through any type of picker. Now, but what happens if the suggestion is not good? So let's just change, let's see, another person I meet with a lot is Ame. He's on the Teams team. And so if I add him, when I go to the suggestion, it's still saying that City Center is my best option, but the Teams team actually is based out of Lincoln Square in Bellevue. And so I want to go and browse more places. And when I do that, now I have the browse room experience, which this brings me to. And so what we do here is this is the more sort of directive experience. So I don't need AI or something to tell me what's the best for me. I know what's the best for me. So I'm going to go and look for that. And so we start with the rooms or the room list that you use the most. And so it's starting with building 32 because I may want him to come to my building. But in this case, I want to go to his building. And so I have two options. One is I could go and navigate the room list and try to figure out where is Lincoln Square. Or I could just search. And so what I can do here is just type Lincoln's. And now it's bringing back all the rooms in Lincoln Square. Now there's a bunch. And so there's a lot to pick from here. A lot of them are busy. So what I can actually do is use our filters. So this is where the filtering comes in. I can just say, just show me the available ones. I don't care about the busy ones. And now I can quickly see what are the rooms that are available. Now, if I am more familiar with the room list experience, though, I can still use that. So if I go to the room list, and I don't know how many room lists you have in your company, but we have a lot of room lists. And it's annoying to have to go and scroll through the room list. So what I can just do here is I can just type Puget Sound, let's see, Lincoln Square, and I can just start navigating the room list here. And so I know I want the top floors here, so I'm going to choose this one. And so now it's going to filter down the available rooms within that room list that are available, and then I can quickly choose one of these rooms to use. We also have the ability, though, just to search for any room in general. You know, one of the ones, conference rooms, I think that sort of famous for us is we actually had the Treehouse Masters guy build a set of Treehouse conference rooms in our campus. And so the problem is like that Treehouse conference room is not in any room list. So it's almost impossible to find unless you know how to go through the GAL. But we can also just search for that right here. I could just do Treehouse and it should just appear. So again, we're sort of making search a lot easier. It can do a substring search to find the right room. It shows what's available. And if I was to go back to, let me see if I can show you as well. Here, if I go back to my favorite room, This is where the location card experience also appears as well. So here you can see I can get, here are all the locations, the location information. But it may be that, let me go back to browse, that I need to go and find a conference room in Seattle because both Ame and me will be in Seattle. So I can also just search by city. So if I just type in Seattle, we actually have a building there. And what you'll see is the search results are returning not only things that, basically, if you had Seattle in the display name, that would appear, but it's also returning results where the city of that conference room is actually Seattle. And so I can actually choose one of these. I'll just choose this one. That one looks free. And then again, if I look here at the location card, I can see that. And maybe I don't visit this building that much, so if I wanted to, I can easily go get directions to it, and it will appear on the map. And then that's sort of integrated with Bing as well. So I can easily put where I'm coming from and get directions to it. So I'm quickly running out of time. I'm just going to switch back to, so that's what you get from a user perspective. From an admin perspective, if you're the admin that has to manage this, well, how do you manage all of this stuff? Well, to start with, we're actually utilizing commandlets that already exist. So you can go ahead and set all the postal address information using the set user commandlet. You set your capacity using the set mailbox commandlet. We always had these properties there, but it was never used for anything. And so there's never any incentive for admins to fill this in. Well, now that we have this functionality, this is something that you can go do. And we will go and actually calculate the geocodes for you if you don't put in the geocodes, or if you have more exact geocodes you want to put in for every conference room, you can fill those in yourselves as well. And again, that just makes the TTL that has to fire a lot more accurate, or that time to leave notification. But I don't know if you're thinking this, but what we got from feedback from a lot of customers where, well, we don't actually manage our conference rooms. We have a facilities team that manages our conference rooms. And I don't want to give them access to set user and set mailbox. That's just way too much permissions. And so what we're doing is we're actually building a new set of commandlets just targeted for those facility or space managers. And so they're called our places commandlets. And we've actually are building a new RBAC role called the places management role. And that allows them to manage all of those, so the metadata on those rooms. And so they can go and update them, keep them up to date, and as they create more rooms. We're also adding new properties so that it's a lot easier to map from a space system. So if you're a large company, generally you have your own space system to manage your own real estate. And so the ability to map that system into the places graph is much simpler by adding, we have things like room ID, there's like a room label. So while you may have certain conference room numbers, a lot of people like to put fancier names on it. And so you can also use the room label as the name for that room. We're also supporting multiple room types. So we know that not every conference room is the same shape. Multi-purpose rooms are actually also a very, very different scenario as well. And so we'll be able to support a lot of those scenarios. And so the rollout of the metadata will come in phases. So we started with the data that actually exists today because that way we can get a lot more traction quicker. But then we'll be adding more information or metadata on how you can define your campus, the building, the floor, and then as well as adding more metadata on how you want to describe the equipment and also additional other capabilities in the room. This is sort of our sort of deep dive how it works, but if you want more deep dive on this, I'll be at the booth later and we can go get into that. But now what about the developers? Because there is a very rich ecosystem around room booking and room management. And so what we're doing is we're actually going to be publishing a REST API to the Microsoft Graph that'll give you full access to the rooms and all of its metadata to both add it in there, as well as if you're building your own add-in, you can also use that as well to get to the rich data properties. And so just to give you some idea, we're also working really closely with the add-ins team to make sure that all of the sort of the client-side libraries will allow you to get rich access. And what this is showing is we're partnering with our own facilities team to understand better on how do we light up things like catering or like other room services so that the API can handle those cases. And as other partners or yourself, if you're adding those capabilities in your company, that will integrate very well with the places capabilities. So what you're seeing here is, we have a menu. We have a system called Inventions that is where you can book catering. It's able to automatically pull in the location of where you need that food delivered. It can pull in as well as all the other capabilities that the add-in gives you, like number of attendees. You can calculate costs, those type of things. So I believe I am pretty much out of time. So again, I will be at the booth later if you have any other questions. And I thank you for listening.